Hello everybody, bonsoir tout le monde. Bon, mwen kontan wè nou tout. Bon, ta pral di aswea, mais c'est après-midi. Mwen kontan wè nou tout après-midi. I'm so happy to see you all this afternoon. I'm going to introduce myself really quickly, and then after that, talk a little bit about why we're here today, and then introduce our amazing guest of honor and dive right into a conversation that I think we've all been really waiting to have for some time now. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Wynnie Lamour, and I am the founder and managing director of the Haitian Creole Language Institute of New York. And I also teach Haitian Creole at the Center for Latin American and Caribbean Studies as part of this really amazing collaboration with 3 other New York City area universities called the Indigenous and Diasporic Language Consortium. It basically means that we teach and focus on less commonly taught languages like Haitian Creole. And at NYU, we also offer Quechua as part of that program, which is a language spoken in the Andes in South America. So I'm really glad to be able to do this kind of language advocacy work. And part of the work that I do involves not just teaching Haitian Creole, but also offering these amazing cultural workshops. So we do things like the Haitian Tea Party, where people can come and learn about traditional Haitian teas. We do events like Haitian spirituality, where we talk about Vodou and what that looks like in the larger Haitian cultural space. And then we also have this amazing program called Mother Tongues United. And it's stylized as hashtag Mother Tongues United on purpose, because I'm a millennial and we're all about social media. But it's also just really important for us to document the work that we do, so that people 20, 30, 50 years from now can easily look back and find out information on what the Haitian diaspora was doing back in 2021. So, okay, today we're talking about Kilti Piedbois, and we have an amazing guest with us today. Her name is Wilnise Francois. And because we're not about doing boring things over here, I'm going to ask Wilnise to come back on camera, and I'm going to ask you a very important question, Wilnise, parce que m'kwen sa son question tout moun ap mande tèt yo, spécialement moun ki la, qui pas habitué avec vous, qui pas connaît travail ou faire. M'bral demander une question. Qui mounouye? C'est qui mounouye? Who are you?
Moi, c'est non moi. Moi, je Wilnise. C'est ça, c'est non maman. Avec papa, moi, je vin sous terre. Mais moi, c'est un Haïtien. Naturellement, moi, j'ai maman et papa qui vivent en États-Unis, je fais en États-Unis, mais connaissant moi, j'aime essence moi, non moi, comme moi c'est haïtien.
Yes, that's that word. I love that word, nana.
Oui.
For me, it's one of the words on Kreyòl that doesn't have an appropriate English translation. Lem di nana. Par exemple, m'sonje lem te piti, maman t'a dit, oh, ou besoin plus nana. So sometimes it means like you need more like substance on your body. Et puis, again, des fois, I hear my mom say like, like you're my insides.
Yes.
My insides. So that's a word that I really enjoy hearing. So it's important to me that I hear you say that you're say Ayisyen, like that's where your heart is. Do you identify as Dyaspora? Are you a Dyaspora? Est-ce que ça sont mots utilisés pour décrire tout, le wap parler, le wap expliquer moun qui a souillé?
Oui, moi, ou connaît, le Haïti m'pa ouais c'est Diaspora mouillé parce que Haïtien mouillé 100%. But the mouvement ici, I do like to make that translation parce que it's easier for people, for us in the West, right, here in the States, to identify and distinguish, okay, si c'est Haïtien, qui bout à l'école, right? And I don't have that answer. So saying c'est diaspora, gives that clear definition so folks are able to identify where that comes from.
Sometimes I struggle with the word diaspora. Sonje lem te pi jeune. I mean, I'm still jeune.
Oh oui, oh oui.
Lem te pi jeune, puis m'te kon al Haiti. I used to hear people yell out, diaspora, diaspora on the street. And I'd be like, oh man, like, Ayisyen mwen, I'm Black like you. Like, what? How do you know? Ayisyen ki jan yo fè konnen se diaspora mwen. And the truth is, that's an identity I can't step away from. Parce que même jan pou même, bon, mwen te fèt Haiti, men mwen eleve Etats-Unis. Mwen eleve Brooklyn, son moun New York mwen. Mwen pa ka kom si rejte pati sa de mwen-même, parce que c'est ça qui fait who I am. It makes me who I am. So it took me a while to reclaim the word diaspora, parce que l'MT PPT, it was really like, c'est pas ton bagay positif, c'est pas ton bagay l'em moun relo diaspora. It's really like c'est jouer ou tap jouer ou non sens. But I love that in our generation of diaspora, there's really this sense of like, okay, bon, ça c'est identité nous, this is who we are, and we're doing what we do to remain connected to IET. And so I always like to tell people that I'm a language advocate. Travail mwen fè, bataille mwen, c'est avec Kreyòl là. That's the work I do. But there's a lot of other ways that I remain connected to IET. As a diaspora, parce que vraiment vrai, Mother Tongues United is about how language fuels our identities in different ways. So as a diaspora, qui j'en fais rester connecté avec Haïti? Est-ce qu'on va aller là souvent? Est-ce qu'on a une famille toujours qui est Haïti? Comme si qui premier pas ou prend pour rester connecté avec Haïti?
Pourquoi? Parce que I think me lever avec tellement parents moi c'est haïtien tout bas nous fait la caille c'est pour nous lever Haïti. So I feel j'aime rester connecté c'est avec manger, avec ça me fait pour santé, et j'aime utiliser feuilles for my nourishment, right? Mal Haïti souvent parce que nous avons une famille qui toujours voyager, so nous toujours à Haïti. On me lever avec famille qui toujours comprendre, vient à pour 6 mois, doit aller, venir encore, une grand-maman qui toujours venir. But moi quoi j'aime lever avec Jean famille moyen j'aime maman lever nous tant depuis nous petits monde nous toujours comprendre ça n'a fait c'est parti haïtien et c'est ça qui nous cultive. So there was always a very a sense of pride in how we ate and how we interacted with each other in all the ways.
I literally can't deny that I'm Haitian. Get it back ou tout est à son monde qui élevé dans un foyer haïtien. Yeah, and so even though c'est pas Haïti moi élevé, c'est Haïti qui l'élevé. Je vais répéter parce que je connais des gens qui peut-être pas fin comprendre. Malgré c'est pas Haïti moi élevé, mais c'est Haïti qui l'élevé, comprendre parce que maman c'est haïtien, grand-moi c'est haïtien, papa c'est haïtien, toute famille c'est haïtien, qui veut dire toute sensibilité moi. Et j'aime ouais le monde en général, c'est avec un point de vue haïtien. So let's talk about feuille. Let's talk about feuille. So I always like to tell the story of how I started the Haitian Tea Party. Parce que je fais une activité qui est the Haitian Tea Party. Mais en réalité, c'est pas un bagage qui existait. People are like, Haitians have tea parties. The truth is we don't. We don't tea parties.
We don't, yeah.
This was just my way of packaging information about a very particular aspect of Haitian culture. C'est j'en utiliser feuille pour nous guérir tête nous. Et puis, ça m'a toujours raconté, moun, la m'te petit, grand, moi, t'es qu'on gagne un gros sachet, feuille. Chaque fois qu'on bagaille qui pas, comme si on va faire mal, on t'a fait mal si, ou bien, whatever, quel que soit ça, on te gagne, il prend sachet, il met men là-dedans, il fouiller, chercher, faire la chercher, il prend faire les tap chercher, et puis, il sentit, craser dans main, comprendre? Et puis là, le bouillir, ils font thé avec, ils va au thé pour boire, et puis, comme ça, ou connaît l'autre petit monde, là, ou absent, bagaille, toujours, vivre bien vite, even though it probably was like a couple hours, whatever. Always felt like grandma gave you some tea, et puis immédiatement, you feel better. So for me, since my grandma passed, she and I were very close. Not only is Faye a way for me to remain connected to IET, but it's also like a direct link to who she was as a person. C'est comme ça, comme si me senti lié avec toujours. C'est chaque fois que je bois un tasté ou bien je chercher à apprendre un nouveau feuille. Et puis là, ça me dit, OK, bon, me sentir énergie, tout ça. Ça me paraît me demander aussi, qui importance fait gain en vie par et puis dans quel sens les aider à connecter avec Kilti haïtien parce que c'est pour ça nous là aujourd'hui même t'as aimé commencer conversation dans cadre ça.
OK. Toujours dit moi nous toutes lever avec même grand-maman parce que moi même moi grand-maman qui toujours a voyagé avec un sac, une mallette, on valise rad, but on mallette fait. Right? Qui chargé à faire. Moi quoi partie fait là, c'est tout sens moi, c'est ça qui n'en a pour moi. Parce que c'est ça moi utilisé pour me connecter avec Haïti parce que nous avons connaissance là quand nous connaissons toute la vie, c'est la nature. C'est là nous joindre. Tout soulagement nous besoin, c'est avec fait nous joindre. So moi quoi tellement moi gain on l'amour avec le chita la caille moi m'a chita avec un thé m'a chita avec une plante toujours à penser des monde qui levé avec yo qui toujours l'aime t'es malade l'aime t'es petit ça yo t'es qu'on fait tout bien yo t'es qu'on fait avec gain même moi qui toujours est avec qui t'es commencé partir where t'es gain a real like need to learn deeper about those herbs and the plants. Changer les mamans étaient enceintes avec un petit sème là les filles enceintes grand-maman Wynnie ils viennent voyager sur Haïti avec un mallette un sac fait les matot moi dans toilette là avec maman yo vidé toute feuille dans bassin yo mettez maman chita son chaise pentif et yo ben moi grand-maman moi maman moi ma tante moi tout a caressé maman après les fin accouchement. Juste ça pas jamais quitté non comme, right? And now we live in a space where we're understanding the need of being in ritual in that way. But c'est parti ça, c'est même moi ça avec Feyo, c'est ça qui really helps to connect and make the deepest connection to IET for me. I feel like there's nothing else that parce que moi toujours dit ça, especially dans le travail, tout haïtien en général, c'est herbaliste, surtout c'est fait docteur, parce que nous toutes les médicaments là nous pour santé, pour la santé, parce que nous croyons dans les médicaments là en pile. And I think out of toutes dans les modes, nous-mêmes qui gagnons plus souvent, right? C'est nous-mêmes qui marchons avec fait plus souvent.
Listen. You really dropping gems right now. I have a tea lady in Brooklyn. Her name is Mommy Dedet.
Oh oui.
And chaque fois mal acheté frère dans menu and it's always like toujours un monde qui là qu'a parlé avec Mommy Dedet. Oh Mommy Dedet. Docteur a dit une intention, oui, ça on pensait.
Oui.
Ou bien I've seen her like talk to people about what herbs, as you mentioned, the steam bath postpartum, after giving birth, you know, talking about what kind of fairy pour mettre na l'eau to steam post giving birth. So for me, it's like even the term before you talked about baigner, like baigner en fairy. Even that term en créole, là où dit on monde bien baigner, comprendre pas qu'on est si nous-mêmes qui comprennent thème ça en créole. On connaît maman te qu'on utilise et phrase ça souvent, li ouais on monde bien li dit nous ça bien baigner. Ça veut dire not in just a literal sense, like this person was well bathed, mais ça yo vle di le ou di yon moun bien ben, ça vle di li bien ben ak feuille, et puis li gen bon chance, kompren? Yo bal chance avec ben sa, ki vle di, un bon ben ak feuille, son bagay tout moun ta va chercher, et ta dwe chercher faire, parce que c'est pas seulement comme si ou vin apprendre one part of Haitian culture, but you're actually physically like connecting your body to the land. Et puis ça, son bagay, nous ta dwe chercher plus souvent, parce que c'est déconnecter, nous déconnecter qu'on y a.
Oui.
Ça, vous pensez?
Well, c'est ça m'a dit. L'aime entrer dans partie m'a apprendre faire, right? Parce que papa m'a toujours a dit c'est pas apprendre faire là, c'est changer, rechanger, right? Il toujours dit ça. Parce que m'a traduit, il me dit Daddy, can you help me? I'm trying to figure this out. He said, you already know this information, right? It's in you. I feel like partie qui disconnecté, c'est diaspora, I feel. Parce que les m'a voyagé à Haïti, moi toujours madame Sarayo, grand mounio, qui marché dans la ville avec quand il fait un sous-tête avec on fait non mais. Je toujours marché à faire parce que moi de ça faire ça oh ben ma femme t'es grand tête fait mal hier on va le couler tête moi on va le faire this on va le faire that avec fait là so moi quoi Haïti pas tellement disconnecté je nous pensais parce que on connaît nous pas aller nous la vivre aux États-Unis nous pas tellement connaître ça qui privé in the everyday cycle of living in Haïti but parce que tellement parti fait là it's so ingrained in our culture. Tout bagay n'a fait c'est avec fait nous fait so nous connaît si tu as un accident al fait un bain si on tête fait mal al couler tête tout si on grippe al couler l'estomac al bat corps avec fait là so nous toujours comprendre c'est à fait là nous marcher parce que haïtien plus ou moins là nous fait nous esprit à faire là c'est pas seul fait nous c'est pas on bagaille nous juste à terre cap grandir nous comprendre fait là lui-même il y a une essence là-dedans et essence ça c'est essence ça qui bon nous non right li bon nous force pour nous marcher there so I feel like we're now in a space considering all that we're seeing right and all that we're witnessing and living through where folks are remembering again and y a rechanger qui gens nous élevé et c'est ça qui te ba nous force pour nous marcher parce que pas gen moun par contre si I mean moun famille moi pas gen moun qui al ka docteur yo toujours al notre al ka docteur et al ka grand grand yo puis al demander OK grand ça me ka faire avec ça à faire yo parce que me connais yo tellement coin faire là. You know, it's really hard for them to ever steer away from that space, even if we assimilate to what we do here in the West.
I feel like you're speaking my whole heart out into the world. Moi tellement pas gen tête fait mal, moi oublier bagay couler tête ça. As soon as of course.
Yeah.
I remember my grandma would do that. And this idea of songer, of remembering, this is something that comes to me often because, bon, okay, I feel senti l'âge cap entré, pas bon nous mentir, mais l'âge cap entré c'est pas comme si me senti m'a vinn pi grand monde, mais c'est comme si me senti gon sagesse cap entré dans moi. Like there's like connaissance that's coming back to me, and I that often comes back to me when I'm having really quiet time, like in the kitchen, either drinking something warm or cooking a traditional Haitian meal. It's like getting by guy that just comes back to me. And let me give you one example. So, moi j'aime manger la bouillie.
Oh oui.
I don't know si nous manger la bouillie ou c'est boire nous la bouillie, but me, I like it épais, so again, laisser manger la bouillie.
Oui.
So I was like revisiting making la bouillie several months ago, and I was like, how do you make la bouillie? I was like reading the box, and I was like, this don't look right. And then like I went to I bought the actual mai, like the corn, the finely ground cornmeal, and I was like reading the label, and I was like, this don't look, I was like, none of this look right. So I was like, no, let me see what happens. So I was like in the kitchen, commencé faire la bouillie, and then like this memory of my mom and grandma making la bouillie just like came back to me. This like vivid, I felt like I was actually like in the body of little Wynnie, watching her grandmoons make la bouillie. And I just felt like my body felt warm, and I was like, wow, garon mémoire, moi vin tomber sous lit, that was not like super at the forefront for me, mais li là quand même. Et puis, c'est ça moi toujours di moun, le wap connecté avec terre, it really is a remembering. And I even tell people that with Kreyòl, bon, lem pale Kreyòl, tout est son moun ki pa telve en Haiti. M'pale en Kreyòl diaspora, whatever. It's how I talk, take it. Comprends?
Oui, oui. Same.
Qui important parler Kreyòl, c'est ça qui est important. Et puis, même le, moi, parler avec élèves, moi dit, comme diaspora, all that information's already in you. The Kreyòl is there. It's just a matter of like remembering it and really coming back to the nana of it. So, thank you for bringing that word to the conversation, because this is something that as diaspora, parce que nous pas Haïti, nous pas ouais madame Sarah yo kap marché ak fè nan men yo, nous pas ouais et fè ki la nan marché yo, nous pas ouais moun ki nan la kou kap bay moun ben, parce que nous pas ouais la comme ça. Et spécialement si vous habitez en côté tant que New York côté pas gen la kou, pas gen pied droit, pas gen si, pas gen ça. It's not the same vibe. You just don't see it. Mais ça pas vle di li pa la, ça pas vle di connaissance nan pa la, ça pas vle di ou pas jamais reconnecter avec connaissance ça. So yes, oh man, I feel like we're on a tangent, but we're still on the right spot. Can we talk about your journey to becoming an herbalist? Comme si, est-ce que ça son bagay ou te cherché fait ou bien ou vin tomber là-dedans parce que that was in your destiny, c'est ça qui était dans l'avenir quand même. So can you talk to us a little bit about Voyage ça and where you are with it currently?
Yeah. I feel my journeying through the plants has been a part of a general sense of healing, right? Parce que toujours m'lever avec Herbalistes, m'lever avec Dr. Faye. I always credit my father to being a master herbalist who can put anything into the ground and watch it flourish, and could pick any plant and you see the essence of that plant just transform a body of a person. So, m toujou konen sa, jam ap mache nan pati Dr. Faye lan ou Herbalism, kwe ça c'est yon destiny, ap mache avel, parce que li telman ansam, there's no way I could have strayed away from it. Avant ta fè sa, c'est infirmier mteye, right? So, mwenye. So, to be of service to humanity in the sense of ki sa ki plus naturellement pour moi, c'est pour moi marcher avec Faye parce que that's just culturally what I've always seen and always trusted in knowing, because that's what I was raised with in such a really profound and beautiful way. And so throughout my journeying of servicing people through that aspect and avenue, and then realizing how there was such a disconnect from the land, essentially, and from what was so innately ours, right? I think the yearning or the call or that cry, really, because it's a deep cry that happens when you see our community almost perish in the hands of just misaligned information, and knowing that we have so much wealth sitting at our feet, right? Or really at our fingertips, because it's all in us. I just had this deep craving and knowing that I had to share this information in one way or some way. And c'est fait avec Faye. That's what made the most sense to me. And so le m'a marché à faire yo, le m'a fait médicament, le m'a fait bain pam, or whatever it is, or le m'a travaillé avec un monde avec fait yo. It's really a reclamation and honor to grand-maman yo qui t'a fait. Et yo pas connaît pour qui ça yo t'a fait. Et là yo t'a montré parce que m'était toujours une grand-maman, elle a fait une série de bagages, elle toujours relé dans chambre pour venir montrer mais c'est ça pour faire, c'est ça pour faire, c'est ça pour faire. Même des petits moun pas comprendre pour qui ça. Right? Pas comprendre pour qui ça était mettre dans chambre, t'es toujours pas de jambe valeur. But le montre le fin grand monde, montre nos parties où tout le monde a souffert. And so souffrance not just in the physical, but where esprit moun a souffert parce que il tellement I love this word in Creole because it's like a yearning to be back home, right? And it's ou connaissez si bien fait yo avec si qu'a fait ti médicament dans la caille, that's like that part of that remembering that helps to reawaken the spirit, right? So je m'a marché Jean Chimère ouvert porte là pour moi, I think, and m'a marché là dedans. I feel like it's truly just an honor that I'm walking with and a knowing that feels like home. You sentir like no comme la caille, right? And parce que la caille est tellement confortable, tellement gen l'amour. And so l'amour ça, all I want to do is just spread it and just share it to the world. So that's really what this journey working as an herbalist or being with the plants and being with the land in essence has been for me. And the healing that I've watched it do, right? Through my own understanding of IET and how I even identified with IET from how I see it now. It's truly been just this magical experience. So I'm back in more.
There's something about the land. So okay, I have, what do they call it? I have asthma, but it's like seasonal. Lem gen allergie ba kon sa le sam gen ti problème respiration. Quand j'ai yon année moi te gen, I had bronchitis and this souffle ak bronchite and passé 2-3 mois c'est tousser. Chaque petit bagage moi fait moi tousser, parler moi tousser, moi rire moi tousser, moi respirer moi tousser. Moi tellement tousser tout en haut dans dôme c'est pour moi fait mal comme mis not comme tellement. My mom was like, IT. Really? And this is when you would get off the airplane and you would land right on the tarmac. So you'd have to walk from the avion et puis go en distance. And that's where, so there was no like runway or like walkway from the plane to the aéroport. So whatever, I get off the plane. As soon as my feet touched the ground, like I took my first breath of Haiti air, Batu c'est un seul fois. And I tell people this story and they're like, oh, peut-être we need to. It's the land. It's the land. And the name of the game is land, period. Lo chita wap reflechi sou histoire, le wap tande la guerre qui gagne, le wap problème moun gagne, et goumen entre pays, tout ça. The name of the game is land. It's sacred. Everybody knows it's sacred. It's something about the land. So, let me dire, ok, bon, par exemple, ou rete New York, ok, ou pa yon terre, ou pa ka tourner Haïti, start with feuille. Start with feuille. Bagay yo la ou ka charge Ayisyen dans Dyaspora. Grandi feuille sa yo la aux États-Unis. Et puis tout gen moun ki ka voye chercher feuille Haïti. Qui veut dire, I always tell people like starting with a cup of tea is a really great way to ask yourself, what does it mean to be better to you? What does it mean to reconnect with that part of yourself? Let me give a concrete example of one of my favorite feuilles. Et puis après ça, m'a demandé même question. One of my favorite feuilles is tea balm.
Oh, oui.
Yes. Tea balm is like, look, you got any kind of cramping in your abdominal area, please please boil a cup of tea bomb, because bomb will just like knock that like right out in a way that you don't even realize is like, you don't even like, in a way you don't even realize. I'm gonna pause there. And there's something about the society that we're raised in as diaspora that's very, very about caring for the sick and not preventative care. And ça, c'est un problème. Nous toutes nous toutes ap passé dans souffrance ça, qui veut dire pour nous-mêmes qu'à commencer demander tête nous qui ça nous qu'a fait. Truly, starting with Faye and the land is a really great place to start. So, Anu Feonti, turn to the left and ask about specifics. So, do you have a particular fairy that you like? Like, what's in your day-to-day ritual? If you don't mind, partager avec nous.
Oh no, I feel there's one fae, and what's so interesting about this fae is that this variety of the fae, I found it wild. T'es quand Louise Haïti, en plein du Nord, si nous gen connaissance au Cap. And I was just walking in some of the fields. There were squash fields and a bunch of cabrit, cap manger, feuilles, and then they stayed nuzzled in this little patch. And I said, what is this plant that they're also engulfed by? Like they're just eating away. I went up to the plant, and what I found to my behold was basilic. But en genre de basilic vitae, it's a specific basilic that we here in Western herbalism consider holy basil. We consider it holy basil, or tulsi is another name for it. And so that botanical name, if you want to reference it, is Gratisium or Oxium gratisium, or Vana tulsi is another name. So what's interesting about that is that what you're learning about this particular wild holy basil is that it's only found in specific regions. You don't see it anywhere. You know, this is specific to one sect of way in which people connect with plants. And so while walking in Plezino, Conlouise, Haiti, I found it wild, just growing in abundance. And basilic has just always been that plant that has always been drawn to me for plethora of reasons, from remembering growing up bathing with it, to eating it and smelling it and drinking it, and just seeing the many benefits that it does to me personally in my space. But it's always hard to say one. but that memory of seeing Kabwiti manger ti basilic na fay machio, I couldn't pass that memory up. But basilic definitely stands as one of the fond memories of realizing the connection to the plants that we have here with us in the West, and its transport throughout the world, and what we have just sitting in Haiti that some people look at as being dormant and forgotten almost.
C'est pour qui basilic bon?
So basilic lan, nan chimè basilic lan, there's like a plethora of species. I want to say hundreds of species to basilic. This particular strand of basilic, which is called Vana tulsi, is considered what what they consider here in Western herbalism as being an adaptogen. Right? What does that mean? So basically in Haiti, le nou lo wè ou moun ap bezon ben basilic paske tension wo, li gen kol chaud, right? It was a descend, it was a koule tèt li. And so that speaks to exactly how it's used here in the West. As an adaptogen, what that means is that it helps to lower stress in the body. And it's just for overall well-being. It's immunostimulating. It helps with the immune system. It opens up the bronchial tubes. It's highly aromatic, right? So it helps you to remember, right? Through smell. It's good. It's amazing for the body system overall, just for general well-being. And in Haiti, nous comprenons ça parce que gen série de moun basilic, c'est fait souvent un bébé qui malade, ou un grand moun qui malade, ou un tête fait mal, ou un fait chaud. Basilic is usually what folks always run to, which is really interesting. So to see that connection where folks en plein d'ino Haïti, qui en dehors, qui pa gen richesse like our sacred Ayurvedic text, to see that connection to basilic in that same vein was really, really profound to me.
Oh man. Sorry, my allergies are bothering me a little bit. So like my sneeze is like coming and going.
Yeah,
but I think about what it means to come from spaces like IT that aren't viewed as like abundance. And you use this word abundance before. And this is something that I try to, I mean, I don't know, to the best of my current abilities to live by, abundance, because I know that there is a certain way in which IT, maybe not from us, but from others outside of the community, is presented to us. And I think, for example of like how Kreyòl is viewed as like a lesser language, or how Voodoo is seen as black magic, or as people are so quick to remind us that Haiti is the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. Haiti qui vraiment, vraiment négatif. So I tell people, like, actually, we have so much knowledge. There's so much knowledge. Haitian people, my mom, let me give an example of my mom. Paye, maman pas songer. My grandma was like that too. Yo sonje tout bagay parce que nous sorti dans une société côté nous partager bagay yo avec histoire orale, comprendre, c'est parler yon ak l'autre parce que nous vivons en communauté. Nous vivons en la cour ensemble. And that's that that mentality, that idea of like always sharing knowledge because we're also sharing space and land. That's really what's going to, that's why we're going to win in the end. That's why I tell people, that's why we will win in the end, parce que toute connaissance nous besoin déjà avec nous. It's just a matter of like remembering that abundance and then also centering that abundance, because it's easy to get lost, Wilnise. It's so easy. It's so easy to think like, okay, bon, à l'école, apprendre ci, joindre un job, faire un petit argent, tout ça. And before you know it, you're like 60 years old and your knees hurt because you ain't never gone for a walk. And your heart don't feel good because you don't, ou pas content avec ça t'a fait, or you're not breathing right because now you're dependent on like bon grand docteur à te kon ba ou, comprendre? So it's so easy to get caught up in all of these industrial complexes. There's so many of them. Pour moi-même, l'aime encourager moun reconnecter avec Haïti. It's actually not just reconnecter avec Haïti, but it's also like a break from all of those other isms and complexes that don't serve us. So anyway, I'm preaching to the choir.
No, I think this is perfectly aligned and needed, because this speaks to a lot of why I walk in the walk that I walk. Number one, to be that example. And two, whenever le malaiti, toujours di moun yo sa, yo pa konnen ja yo gen la kayo. Son jaliye, toujours di yo sa. Parce que, you know, le Haiti, yo toujours faut qu'on comprenne c'est nan miserie. Wap souffre, wap this, wap that. And mpaka met tèt mwen desan pou di pa gen souffrance Haiti, of course, right? That goes without saying. But si nou te wè en konnen en kompran the richness of the resource nou gen Haiti, mentalite nou tap chanje jan nou wè Haiti. Parce que le mal Haiti, specifically le mal an deyo, and parce que kounya m gen yon connaissance de fè yo, m gen yon connaissance tout sa map wè, m ka reconnect yo, I could name them, I could see, okay, this is what I could eat, this is how I could survive and use this plant in whatever way in my body system or in my life. Haiti tellement gen ja. Mbakwe, this talk is even enough. I don't think we need volumes of material to cover the amount of richness that Haiti holds, right at its feet. that has been cast away just because of that need to assimilate, right? And so this is a beautiful time for us to reclaim that large part of our knowing and our understanding of ourselves. Parce que la nature fait l'un, that's our culture. That's how we survive. C'est ça, ces ancêtres nous ont fait pour nous entrer et camper là aujourd'hui. Parce que si vous pas camper nous honnête ça, nous pas là on this Zoom call to have this conversation with you. So it truly speaks to just that shift that's so necessary, and that pride that's itching and just exploding back for our land, right? And so that we're able to reclaim that space and make it ours again.
Can you tell us about Well-Fed Apothecary?
Definitely. Definitely. I'd love to. Well-Fed Apothecary, again, stemmed from that space of needing, of feeling like going into a lot of these spaces to learn about herbalism and not seeing any of our information shared, or at least vilified as being accurate information, right? And so I would look around and see, well, who can I go to learn about what's in IT and some of the plants that we grew up on and we're using in a really beautiful way, almost daily, to keep ourselves sustained preventatively, right? Not subjectively, but definitely preventatively. So it was really a conversation with me and my father one day. And he actually helped me name the name. It stems from my personal name, but Well-Fed was birthed out of the need to see what I was doing my entire life growing up to stay well, have a platform, right? So that other people can connect and see themselves in it. Because I felt that specifically us in the Dyaspora, we were losing that beautiful essence of ourselves that really helped to exemplify our culture, right? And amplify it to a way that we've never seen, right? We hear the stories now. I think by now, a lot of us are familiar with just the plight of IT and just how much value it has to where we sit today, right? And how it's shaped a lot of what we see around us. So I think I just was desperate in seeing IT and just the richness of what we grew up doing, what we grew up eating specifically, how we interact with food, how we interact with the land, exemplified and seen with substance and excellence and value. So Well-Fed Apothecary is a placeholding for that, right? As I'm also learning and unraveling and remembering.
I'm taking notes as you talk.
Yeah,
you talked about unraveling. The work that I do with the Creole Institute is also an unraveling. Parce que l'MT commencé en CTA, it was really a journey into myself. Parce que m'tap cherché, par exemple, m'tap cherché texte, m'tap cherché histoire qui écrit en créole. And I mean, I knew many of them, and I'd heard some of them growing up, but I realized that there was not what I felt to be a dedicated space for Kreyòl that honored my experience as a diaspora, that like validated it, you know, because I didn't feel validated for a long while. I didn't feel like, okay, well, chaque fois mal Haïti c'est diaspora, ou bien the more problematic word blanc. Oh, blanc, God blanc, parler créole. I was like, come on, give me some space. But it really pressed me to think about like, what is my particular experience as diaspora? How does Kreyòl play a role in that? And then how do I create a space where I can honor that very, very particular experience without taking away from the experience itself and the experience of other people, perhaps moun qui élevé en Haïti, qui était en Haïti et la crié. Cool. We talked for almost an hour, Wilnise.
That's
That's
usually how that works. Les gens say, "Ya marché, get up difficult là," you know.
truly,
So,
truly,
you
truly.
marché vite.
I even feel warm speaking.
Yes, same. Same. It's almost like it's a comfort. Yeah.
It's an energy.
Mhm.
I do want to open up to questions from the audience, but I want to ask you one more question.
Mhm.
So do you grow your own Faye? Like, how are you on the land? I'm not gonna ask, are you on the land? I'm gonna ask, how are you on the land? And then deuxième partie question, c'est pour l'autre diaspora qui a cherché connecter avec terre, qui suggestion tabac yo pour yon côté yo te ka commencer faire ça, même si yo pas gain un pile terre ou bien accès à un pile terre, qui ça ou te ka offrir yo dans ce sens ça.
Oui. So I first of all, I want to say I adore that question. How are you on the land? Right? Because that took me aback. So I'm like, wow, I really have to think about that. How am I on the land? I'd like to think where, at least the territory that I'm in now, I'd like to think it's me creating the space to learn again, and honor the space. I do grow. When gen fè, mwen grandi sou témoin parce que I grew up in a family that papam say he's a Ozaka because he loved agriculture, right? He loved growing, and I grew up having my own little flower beds and vegetable gardens and herb beds. So that stayed with me and carried me through, even in my walk today. So I feel the way I am on the land it's a reciprocated energy. There's a lot of give and take where I give by way of song and dance and planting and creating a beautiful space for it while allowing it to grow wild and just be, right? So, you know, it's tricky to say parce que m'pa Haiti, you know, I'm Floride, so the climate here is a little bit synonymous to what we find in Haiti. So I am able to grow and find some of the same plants that we would find in Haiti here, right? Like one particularly that I'd love to mention, Associ. Like we find that growing wild here in Florida, just everywhere, like along highways and fences and all about. And IT is the same thing. And that's one of the medicines that we all have very nostalgic memories with, right? But just to piggyback on the last question, because I wanna make sure I'm answering it.
You said you want me to
Yeah,
the second part.
Yeah.
I wanted you to pour moun k'ap cherche reconnecter avec terre, ou bien pour moun k'ap cherche et commencer un voyage comme ça.
Oui.
Si on va gen accès à terre, qui ça ou te ka offrir dans ce sens ça, qui ça ou te ka faire pour yo commencer à apprendre, pour yo commencer engager encore avec connaissance ça, parce que nous avons discuté avant que connaissance là, mais il y a un monde qui va connaître côté pour commencer. So what would you offer folks in that regard?
One of the easiest and most effective ways that we all, nous tout ka faire connaissance là encore, c'est chita avec un tasse tisane. Chita avec tasse tisane, si c'est un tasse citronnelle, on tasse basilic, on tasse tibom, on tasse associé, right? Ou chita avec tasse là, parce que nous comprenons Haïti, nous comprenons plante yo kapal avec nous, right? Nous comprenons ça, parce que c'est ça que fait nous ouais plante yo dans sens spirituellement. Là nous chita avec tasse là, nous comprenons, là nous boire, nous prendre godéa, nous mettre dans bouche nous pour boire. Ça déjà connaissance a déjà commencé, right? From you picking and finding and looking for the plant in whatever local spaces you have to find. I think that's one of the first ways to help to reconnect. Parce que nous toutes levons nos cas qui gen moun, gen maman, gen grand moun qui chaque fois pour nous à l'école, associer ça parce que l'école pas ouverte. Les fait Freddy, fait l'huile masquette ça, men chauffer, mettre sous corps. I think doing those things, implementing all those pieces of self-care that we all grew up in and that really connected us back to Haiti in some sense can really help us reconnect to the land in a really profound way, because that's how it started for me, was just reclaiming those rituals. And then from there, right, the curiosity is you're intrigued because you want to know qui ça fait ça qu'a fait pour moi, pour qui ça me senti comme me senti vivant l'aime boire tasse ti bon ça, pour qui ça me senti comme pomme belle l'aime bon en tasse citronnelle or en tasse associée, right? Though that spark of curiosity can really help start the writing to a really beautiful book. And it's just allowing yourself to dive deeper into that connaissance. C'est ça qui richesse nous. Parce que nous gagnons la caille, nous pas besoin de chercher l'autre côté, nous pas besoin d'aller à l'école pour lui, si nous voulons, right? C'est chita avec Tasla, changer les petits moun, les grands t'es qu'on about like you mentioned earlier. Songer les mamans t'es qu'on bien, elle râle corps, main corps, l'autre malade. Parce que Ayisyen, when I'm walking in the other spaces and learning about everyone else and how they see the body and how they heal, right? Ayisyen, non, on caille tout, on dit en tout en dehors, qui sans lumière, sans rien, right? Qui gen bagay sa yo gen connaissance sa yo. Pas gen moun ki di yo, right? Le we moun nan, yo ka manye kom moun nan, and yo déjà connaissent ça gen qui mal, right? They could look at the body to see, oh, c'est ça qui fait mal. I think that those little pieces of ritual are those things that we could do to reclaim and remember and songer, because it doesn't take for us to have acres of land to grow all the plants for us to be connected, right? It's literally just allowing that spark of creativity or curiosity really to envelope into us wanting to know more. And then, wapwe, maman parle le lakayou. Di parle lo. La bin di vin jwen mwen. Parce que lo vin lakayou, c'est lesa wap konen yo tout. All right, so I think that's really the most profound way that any one of us in the diaspora can truly reconnect and continue the healing that's been started for us already. Is chita avec un tastisane and quitter mémoire yo vide sou.
Mwen d'accord net. M toujou di moun, si ou yon grand moun nan vi ou, pale avem. Just mande l question. Komanse mande question, komanse mande e gran sa wap wè la.
Oui.
E sak nan tas. A gran mwen te toujou gon taste, li te gon ti gode.
Gode. E nou pa ka mwen gode a, non?
Ka mwen gode a. And it's like, now that I'm older, I'm like, wow, gade mwen même avec un tasse.
That's gode, right.
I'm like, it feels good in a way that I couldn't have anticipated when I was younger, being present to those things. Comprendre? Parce que m'te kon wè yo, même pot ko comprendre yo, pot ko ka comprendre yo.
Oui.
Et puis c'est pas, m'a dit moi rive non, et pas ça m'a dit, m'a dit moi rive parce que mon outil utilisé avant c'était voyage. Voyage à son bagage, ou continuer dans chemin ça pour toute vie. Toute vie parce que gen pile bagage par exemple, même avec maman, vous comprenez, même avec maman qu'on y a moi ouais gen bagage la pas prendre, même dans dans sagesse li gen, dans l'âge li gen bagage la pas prendre toujours. Moi ouais ça qui fait un petit genre comme si les femmes comprennent plus bien que son chemin cap continuer pour tout le temps. Et puis les pas même fini l'aime mourir, la continuer après ça parce que me toujours dit moi grand moi mourir en 2009, ça fait 10 ans, 11 ans, 12 ans depuis mourir. But my relationship with her took off after she passed.
Oui.
Comprends ça m'a dit nous? vraiment vrai écoutez, tendez bien. Tendez bien.
Non, oui.
My relationship with her took off after she transitioned.
Oui.
Parce que c'est dans le moment ça, c'est comme si ma demandé tête moi like, wow, who was she? What did she show me? How did she impact my mom? What did she leave behind? Ki bagay mwen ka sonje ki ka ede kounia? Gen de leçon, se kounia m komanse kompran yo pi bien. Kan mwen te kon pale avem, oui, maman te kon pale avem, men pot ko pale pou m kompran. But there's things now as I'm older, as I'm creating my own foyer. Kompran? Parce que kounia se kreye foyer pam. C'est là ça m'a commencé à demander tête ma question. And check this out, y'all. I already had the answers. I already had the answers. Comprendre? So, si nous avons un petit grand monde dans la vie, nous, qui n'importe monde, chita avec eux, chita dans pied, parler avec eux, demander aux questions. Et puis, bon, la petit campé là, moi, demander nous, si nous avons une question, nous pouvons mettre dans le chat là. So I see the first person to raise their hands is Judens Exeus. Judens, parlez chaud, parlez fort.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Wilnise.
Hello.
I have a quick question for you, and that is, do you plan or have you offered any courses for future herbalists to learn about herbs and being able to start our own apothecaries?
Oh, wow. I have. That's a beautiful question. And thank you so much for asking, Jordans. So I have offered classes, but very sporadically. In 2020, I had a workshop series that was called Work Your Magie. That will be revamped in the 2022 season. And that really helped to exemplify Haiti's role in herbalism and what we did in ritual to help activate our magie, right? So yes, in the near future, you can definitely be looking forward to some class offerings. I do have a couple of class offerings with other folks in other spaces, like Song of the Spirit, that will be soon, I believe next month, we'll be highlighting that. So if you follow the socials, you'll get all those newses coming up, and follow my newsletter as well. I'll drop all those things there. So thank you for asking those questions.
I have to say, Wilnise, your newsletter is such a refreshing piece of stuff to get in my inbox, because you can feel like when you open up the email, like the rush of freshness to it. There's like this energy that you put in the, I need to,
oh oui, non, c'est pas moi-même, non, c'est les ancêtres, c'est fait.
Oh my God. Oh my God, merci en pile. Par contre, si l'autre monde a une question, Robin dans le chat là qui m'a dit, how do we see indigenous traditions woven into our herbalism and connection to food? So Robin is asking about tradition indigène et puis qui nous fait connecter avec le travail herbaliste à faire et puis connexion liée avec manger. So
beautiful question.
Great question.
And toujours dit ça, like I said earlier, Ayisyen, nous say indigene, like we are indigenous folk on this planet. And je nous aime manger, like it's such a beautiful melting pot. C'est tout, like toute partie qui entre, tout petit mec qui entre Haïti, nous voyons manger nous. So si nous pas connaît, nous gagnons it's a root, un végétable qui relève moyok, right? Or in English, we'll know it as yucca. En Haïti, nous faisons pain avec qui relève cassave. Eh bien, pain ça, cassave là, c'est un pain qui était fait avec awak taïnoyo qui était sous terre avant nous d'arriver. So, not tout si nous manger nous compte faire Haïti, même griot à nous beaucoup, right? Bah, beaucoup griot, ça c'est encore un bagage qui était fait avec awak taïnoyo qui était sous terre. So, not tout si bagay nous gagne Haïti, non doucement cos, non la véritable free time même, right? So, tout montrer nous qui jan nous te avec terre, qui jan nous te manger à terre. And I think yuca, manioc is one of those. Oui, mambayo, my goodness. Cassava avec mamba, piment, but parce que nous aimons piment. Nous bien chaud. C'est nous indigenous, on a tout bagay nous fait. So definitely our culture is extremely indigenous. It's sacred and very, very old, though we might feel that it's not, right? But we've woven so many aspects of the indigenous that cared for the land before us. It's impossible for us not to see ourselves in that same vein.
Listen, when we talk about honneur respect, it's not by accident that honneur respect is how we greet people in traditional Haitian spaces. It's not by accident. We actually come from a people who honor and respect, period, the land, the people, traditions, knowledge, manger, like the honneur respect is in all of that, is woven into all of that. So pour moi-même, l'aime di moun, l'aime offrir moun honneur ak respect, I'm actually exercising the same honneur and respect that zanset mwen te kon e offri moun. Parce que même là yo te vini, yo te forcé yo vini en tant que esclave, même dans espace sa yo te jwenn en façon pour yo marcher ak honneur respect pour moun et indigènes yo qui te là avant yo. Et même si malheureusement pas bien en pile gens avant colon yo te là, mais connaissance qui te existé là yo rive sous terre, yo traité ak honneur ak respect, et puis c'est même connaissance ça yo tout qui vient joindre nous in this great year of 2021. Y'all, we talking about, sometimes I have these really like meta experiences where I'm like, wow, we really talking a language that they created in deep, deep despair from like the 16 and 1700s. And despite every attempt to bury us, our very existence, the language that we speak, the food that we eat, the connaissance we have around herbalism is actually the testament to our humanity. So chaque fois que des moun qui parlent soit Haïtien pas moun, Haïtien pas ça, I'm like, all of this stuff is evidence of our humanity. It's actually like we're actually regular schmegular humans, like other humans who did very human things in a very unique way, but still human. So I don't know, y'all. If you don't feel the power of the knowledge of IT, today, October 22nd, 2021 is the day you start to really feel that power, truly. Si vous pouvez vraiment demander des séries de questions, today is the day to do that. So, qui est-ce encore qui t'a demandé une question ou bien partage un bagay, un commentaire? Elisha, moi, vous levez main, parlez chaud, parlez fort.
Oui, moi, j'ai une question pour Wilnise.
Oui.
If we're interested in learning herbalism, how or where would you suggest us to learn?
That's a beautiful question. And on est à respect, Elisha. Comment est? Elisha, right? You dit correctement?
Elisha.
Excuse me, Elisha. Okay. Elisha. So there are many spaces to learn herbalism in many capacities now, right? We have so many folks who are doing such beautiful work in our spaces of helping us to dismantle and decolonize the way in which we see herbalism in the space, right? And reclaim a lot of this knowing and knowledge. There are a number of resources I could pin to, and maybe I'll probably put them in the chat somewhere, but I feel like the easiest and most efficient way to learn about herbalism is going outside. And I know that sounds so cliche and just vague to say, but truly, that really is the remembering. And that's where the remembering begins. Because the plants, again, I believe specifically in like plant yo pa lave, ou fe yo pa lave. So, lo chita avel, and ou fe, ou reconnaît li, right? Ou ponta pou reconnaît fe lan. La moutro tout baga ou bezen. Chime a pouve pou, and all of what needs to be known will be shown to you, right? But in the meantime of wanting that, right? Because again, we're still as sentient beings who want to just have and know and be gratified in that way. I could highlight a couple of teachers in a newsletter. I'll do that just so that you have the space to learn. But truly going outside and sitting avec terre, chita avec un tasse tisane is a really beautiful way to start. That's truly how you start.
All right, thank you.
You're most welcome.
Merci Ampile Elisha. Et Judens kap mande yon question. Can you expand upon what associé is good for?
Definitely. Associé, or what a lot of us here, and thank you for that question, Judens. Associé is a vine that you find growing wild, specifically in the subtropical spaces like Haiti, the Caribbean, and here in Florida, that we in Haiti use for many different ailments. Another common name for it is called bitter melon, or what other folks in other spaces of the Caribbean islands as Cersei. It's a powerful, powerful, powerful detoxifier for the system. It really helps to flush out our blood. Parce que Haïti, c'est ça nous bonne pour laver sang nous. Parce que Haïti nous comprend, les sangs sales, c'est qu'on soit malade. So associé is often used to laver sang, laver peau, ou qu'on be sou un boule ou bouton qui leve sous corps, yo toujours dit al pon associé à frotter and wash your body with it. Associé is great at many different ailments of helping to balance the body, specifically blood sugar. It's known to be helping to lower blood sugar in the body system. Associé is extremely bitter. So if any of us have memory of using associé and drinking associé, you'll never forget it, right? It's also known as a really amazing anti-parasitic, right? And so it kills all those nasty bugs. So, and culturally for me in my home, we grew up where my father, every summer right before school started, we drunk associé tea just to, kill off whatever we might have tagged along with us during the summer. So associé is just one of those beautiful, beautiful plant allies that just is abundant and just grows and crawls onto everything and just reminds us of our vitality and how we're able to expunge and clear out any debris that's not necessary so that we can be our clearest, strongest selves, right? Associé is known to be a warrior's plant, right? So I strongly encourage everyone to keep a batch of or a little bundle. You can wear na market or wear a bundle of associé, just strong and bitter and all the things. So associé is a beautiful, beautiful vine that I encourage all of us in the diaspora to connect ourselves with, and not just in drinking it, but even having it in your spaces is a beautiful way to connect avec terre, right? Because
I realize, what we didn't really talk about with these, even though we touched on it in different ways by using terms like reconnecting and remembering and abundance and unraveling. These are all power nous utiliser dans conversation ça. But one thing we have not talked about very specifically is how herbalism is tied to spirituality and IT. Mm-hmm. And you've suggested several times, just sit with the tea, mm-hmm. sit with the herbs, sit with the plants. For me, the act of remembering and reconnecting, it's very spiritual. Gen fois, I'm back on it pour memories, mais gen fois, m'chita, et puis m'just gon pensée qui entre dans tête. Back on it kote sorti, but it feels like a memory, but it's not necessarily a memory. Ou bien gen fois, m'senti, par exemple, dans ventre moi a feeling. I'm like, all right, let me porter attention. Ou bien, you know, like my skin will feel like cool or warm, depending on côté lié. Pour moi-même, ça les représenter yon aspect dans spiritualité haïtienne. Even if you don't, you know, put a word to it, I believe the land is the starting place for that. Même avec, commencer à le wap ben yon ti bébé, rive nan koule tête, continue nan rale corps, because rale corps is a thing. Even the idea of the lakou, where we're all in it together, we are a being connected to others. You don't exist as an individual, you exist as a community. I don't know, qui sa ou pense sou ça? Est-ce que ça son bagay qui fait partie nan rituel ou chaque jour? Est-ce qu'on gen rituel qu'on fait? Et puis, est-ce qu'on pense que ça son bagay diaspora ta doué faire un petit réfléchir sur lui?
Oui, si m'ta dit l'esprit par nan connaissance moi chaque jour, le m'a fait n'importe ça m'a fait, comme lever gym le matin, m'ta dit un gros menti sur la vie. Parce que I always say this, I feel like Ayisyen, and I mean, you know, it might just be like this pride of Haiti, right? Parce que c'est moi Haiti, right? But Ayisyen are some of the most spiritual beings on this planet. And gen yon série de connaissances, tout Haïtien, c'est pas même just grand moun qui connaît, but même petit moun qui gen connaissance sa yo. Parce que jan yo marché, jan yo agi avec tête yo. Parce que nous gen connaissance communauté, la kou la kay nou, parce que nous gen connaissance fè yo, la kay nou, parce que nous gen connaissance terre, la kay nou, nous toujours comprendre l'esprit c'est comme ça le marché. Parce que le nous est moun, nous pas ouais moun pour moun, nous est moun pour esprit li gen sou yo. Nous toujours dit ça. Toujours dit ça marché avant parce que moi toujours dit ça. Ça marché avant c'est lui même qui fait. C'est pas ou même, c'est pas tête tout. So all of everything that I do in every capacity, no matter what it is, c'est l'esprit m'a engagé and c'est l'esprit m'a marché, right? All of it is spirit, and it's for me to try to remove it in any aspect it's inauthentic to what it is and who I am in essence. Tout bagay nou fè Haïti gen yon élément spirituel la donne, right? Nous tout levé, n'a jeté café le matin. Nous pas connaît pour qui ça n'a fait, pour nous jeter. N'a jeté glou, right? Nous avons une série de thé n'a boire, nous une série de saisons, right? Nous avons une série de bains n'a fait, nous une série de saisons. Nous pas doit connaître pour qui ça n'a fait, parce que we might not have the root of it, right? But son connaissance nous tout gain la caille, parce que c'est ça nous y est comme haïtien. And that universally, là où on dit son haïtien y ou pas qu'à retirer ça dans corps, right? Pas qu'à retirer l'esprit dans corps. Dyaspora même y obligé parce que bah la nation, so n'importe quoi faire ou obligé reconnaître ou obligé reconnaître lui parce que c'est ça qui pousse dans la vie, right? And c'est ça qui connaît, c'est ça qui nous, and that's how we move in the world. So for us in the diaspora, the deeper that we dive, and even just sitting with a cup of tea, son rituel, n'a commencé faire, c'est ça qui fait nous gain idée qui vient sur nous, plus ou moins, parce que nous, c'est ça qui fait, c'est nous-mêmes qui lève dormir, right? C'est nous-mêmes qui a dormi, gain message qui vient entrer sur nous, right? Lever en famille, waking up pour dire ça, ce qui rêve vous fait, et ça, ouais, non rêve là, c'est un bail normal, c'est simple. Mais nous lever dans culture, nous lever pour raconter un rêve, ça c'est un bail qui pas normal. Mais je pense que nous Haïtiens, nous connaissons ça, son bagay nous tout café, right? And des petits moun, right? So for us in the diaspora, I mean, no matter what it is that we do, once we tap back into that landmass, once we even just say, I'm gonna go forage some associés today, ça c'est l'esprit qui vient de dessous. And tout message ou t'as besoin pour continuer sur le chemin parlant, là commencer, right? And I feel like there's nothing that we can do in the diaspora to remove ourselves from that, because that is who we are in our truest essence, specifically when we're honoring Haïti. Parce que Haïti tellement son terre qui gen spirituel, pa gen l'autre moun ki ka comprendre ni, right? It's truly unexplainable to even try to like traduire right now.
You mentioned foraging. In the chat, Rebecca asked, says that they're in Miami and that you mentioned that these herbs grow wild in Florida. Do you ever forage for plants and herbs? And do you have any tips to do so safely?
100%. I feel like foraging, specifically aside from just growing the plants, foraging is one of the most unique ways of truly honoring the land mass, because it allows the plants to, you have that moment to really see the plant in its true essence, right? Without it being disturbed and without you knowing that this is someone who strategically placed this here, right? There's a poetic just dance that happens when you're seeing a plant that's just growing out of a marsh, right? Knowing that it just needs to be there, right? Or maybe a bird might have dropped its seeds there, or just in that space because that's where it was called to be. Foraging is something that I feel specifically us in the diaspora and all worldwide can really do to help reconnect ourselves and reclaim the essence and honor Zanset Nuyo, Gamun Nuyo, Ki Ale. Foraging is a part of my self-care practice. It's a part of what I do to help stay on course in remembering, right? In Florida here, luckily we have tons of open spaces that we can go and be a little nosy in and see what's going around us, right? That's what I tend to always say. It's just me being nosy just to see who's here, because I'm also disturbing space in essence, right? When I'm going to forage. But I think the easiest thing I could tell you is finding a beautiful plant identification resource so you know what you're looking at, what you're touching, what you're engaging in. The first few times you want to go forage, I wouldn't suggest it being something where you're going to take, right? Allowing that time to really just be in that space and see what speaks to you, what calls to you. And then maybe coming back a third or fourth time is a really beautiful way of honoring the plant. But let's say you reach that point where now you're familiar and you have a confidence that's brewing, right? You feel like, okay, I'm getting to know these plants and these plants are getting to know me. I think it's time to take you home. Finding a space that's free and open is what I would highly suggest. I necessarily don't forage in spaces where there's a lot of foot traffic or just traffic in general, because just of the toxins that we have floating in the air is not something that I would ever want to reintroduce into my body system via the plant, because like there are some plants that hold on to a lot of these toxins within their chemical constituents. So it's important that we find barren, open land that we can just go in and are mindful of the space and are safe in doing so, and just really connecting ourselves back to the land and finding really beautiful, whether it be a plant app that you use, something like Snap Plant ID or Plant Snap, or a really good foraging book, or even like finding local foraging groups in your communities, right? There's so many teachers, like little pockets of folks who do that. They do plant walks or plant ID walks. That's a really beautiful way to, again, reconnect with what's growing natively around you, and then trying to see how it connects us back to Haiti, because a lot of what you'll find is that what we see here, specifically in Florida, is what we'll find growing wild in Haiti in just the same vein.
Oh man.
I know.
Wilnise, I'm going to ask you the same question I ask every Black woman I have on this platform. Est-ce pare? How can we support you with time, energy, or money? Go. What you need from us? What do you need from us? Because we got, you know, the I don't know, si monte economic recovery check back on it. But like, how can we support you? What do you need from us? Go.
I need y'all. I need folks. I need famille moi pour les où on travail qu'a fait, yo marché à travail là. Si travail là bon, and s'il pas bon, faut nous dire. I need folks to see when people are in their essence of creation, yo, si Paul. That's what I need from me. Parce que travail là, tellement li na cœur, it's like you're holding on to un petit bébé, and sometimes it feels nerve-wracking to try to share it. So whenever there's a moment of sharing, take precedence in really identifying and seeing how this person is involved themselves into creating this space for us to learn, and what can we do to support that? Because sometimes it's really hard to answer that question, like, what does support look like for me? How can I support myself? Or what do I need from my community, right? What does that look like? I think that's a question I toy around with myself all the time. But truly, I think it's just for us to show up for one another. And that's truly it. Like once we show up and really do that groundwork, I feel like that's the part that will help to magnify us and really uplift us in a really profound way that sometimes we don't even realize just how deeply we needed that validation from each other, right? It's different getting it from other spaces, but when it's from me, going bagay lakay, like there's nothing. So it's just about us showing up for each other. I think that's the key in us just continuing this work.
Belle réponse. But girl, what you selling? What courses you got? What products you got? What can we purchase, buy, and sell? Like what's good in terms of the coins? Because my biggest thing, and if you've been following the work that I do for the past several years, is uplifting other Black women. C'est ça m'a cherché fait. Vraiment vrai, ça m'a cherché fait. Like, if you go and do like a catalog of the events I've done, it's almost 100% Haitian women in the diaspora. Almost 100%. Parce que c'est travail ça m'a fait. And the truth is, I know as from one business person to the next, because my heart is rooted in business. I run a small business. Mm-hmm. I know et pas un bagage qui facile. Et puis il y a un pile leçon en tant que femme que nous apprenons pendant notre faire business, non comprendre? C'est chercher faire un petit l'argent, mais en même temps c'est apprendre faire le tout, parce que en tant que femme noire, il y a des bagages société à pas apprendre nous. So for me, I'm always like, give Black women their money. L'argent. C'est pas parce que moi quoi c'est pour l'argent n'a fait travail là, non. Nous fait ça parce que c'est l'esprit qui a guidé nous, c'est ancêtres nous qui va connaissance yo. Ça son travail nous t'a fait malgré n'importe ça qui arrive dans vie nous. Ça moi comprendre. Mais en même temps, si yon bagay nou te ka inscrit pour lire newsletter, like where can we find you such that when you are ready for an offering or you have an offering, nous la nous pare, nous déjà gon ti l'argent à côté, nous connaît OK jodi a nous va le Wilnise on ti support ou bien nous va planifier pour Wilnise parce que nous connaissez pas tout le monde. I know we still in a panoramic, y'all. I already know this. Comprendre? It's still going in. Lady Corona is doing her thing. Mais en même temps, on est avec une petite planification, on t'y serré à côté tout ça, il y a un petit bagage nous t'ai fait ensemble en tant que communauté. So where can we find you such that we are prepared when you need us?
Yeah. Wealth@apothecary.com. I've been tellement yo bon mon sagesse la kay moi. C'est difficile pour me parler sous lui, right? But Apothecary.com. C'est eux-mêmes qui mettent le sous-bois, ma marche avec. And that's truly been the space of where I've built such beautiful community. And I'm in awe of it, of just how deep the family is just growing and becoming just so tight-knit. And we're all just on this walk together. Like you shared earlier about the newsletter, like that's really one of the ways that I really communicate on almost a monthly basis, sometimes weekly, where we just chat and talk. And of course, the socials, Instagram, you'll constantly be seeing things that I share very sporadically, because the way in which I structure my business and just the way I show up in this herbal space, it's a real flow, right? And I'm flowing in how it's showing up for me. And so the easiest way for me to continue that flow is through just the natural shares that happened via social media at Wilnise or Well-Fed Apothecary and all the things that show up on the newsletter. I do have a class coming on the 24th of next month that's going to be highlighting some plants in Haiti that we use to help preserve our melanin, our skin, right? What we could do to, you know, ou konnen sa yo fait avec tout produit nou met sou market lan pou nou bet sou pou nou. And if you guys aren't familiar, our skin is the largest organ in our bodies. And what we're putting on our skin every single day affects a large part of our wellness and our well-being. So that class is going to be focused on some of the ways in which we could use our allies, our plant friends, bagay nou kon fè Haiti, bagay nou fè Haiti, ki te pou nou bel, ki te pou nou san, some blemish qui fait, you know, make us rosy and beautiful, preserving our melanin. I think it's so important that we get the information and the tools and the resources where we could learn those spaces and learn those things. And it's via Song of the Spirit. I'll be plastering that all over my IG when in due time as those things roll in. But whenever you're on Well-Fed Apothecary and you go through the events, you could see all of the spaces where I'll be sharing or creating or collaborating with folk. And I think when let femme vin, it's like, you know, that warmth, I feel it, I truly do. And it gives me that just to continue machine. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I'm ready. Bon. If there are no other thoughts, questions, or comments, I just want to say a couple of things. Premièrement, Wilnise, merci en pile. Truly, your presence was needed today. Vous partagez en pile belle information avec nous. Nous pas qu'attendre pour nous continuer à supporter dans n'importe quel sens nous capables parce que nous fait ça nous qu'a fait. Mais en même temps, nous encourager moun commencement de tête yo nouveau question. This is really a time to start asking ourselves new types of questions. And as you are all moving into elderhood, we all are moving into elderhood in a certain way. You have to really question certain things and ask yourself, like, what's really good, you know, like from within, from within. So thank you for sharing this space with me, Wilnise. Thank you, everyone here, for sharing space with you and with me, with CLACS. Thank you for CLACS for supporting this and co-sponsoring this. When I first started working at NYU, y'all, I told them, like, y'all, the work I do is for Black people, by Black people, about Black people. And they're like, all right. And I was like, okay, well, I mean it. Let's go. Let's go. So even though NYU is a predominantly white institution, I knew that I wanted to create space for the Black voice there. So thank you, Wilnise, for coming onto this platform and sharing your voice, sharing your essence, your nan, your l'esprit, your connaissance, your sagesse, tout ti bagay sa yo qui fait yon gros femme jam que nous vraiment fiers de vous-même and the work that you're doing. So thank you so much. For those of you who want to continue to follow the work that I do, you can always check out my website, Haitian Creole Institute.com. And there's also a current events space that you can just kind of see a list of things that we have coming up. And I have to plug my my next upcoming favorite thing, which is Chanteak Fofo. We're going to be learning with a mambo. Her name is Mami Fofo, and she's going to be teaching us how to sing traditional folkloric songs in Kreyòl. So if you want to roll through and get that kind of sagesse and connaissance, comprendre? Parce que Haïti chargé à connaissance. Today we focused on feuilles and plant and terre, mais gen connaissance langue, gen connaissance musique, gen connaissance et chanter, gen en pile bagay Haïti ka apprend nous toujours. And it really is our responsibility to sit and listen. So if you have some time for the next 4 Saturdays, roll through. And y'all know I'm good for a good discount code. So if you want to come and get $25 off, use the discount code in 25, okay? Pas de problème. En tout cas, in any case, please continue to follow Wilnise and her work. Continue to follow CLACS NYU. Continue to follow the Creole Institute. We truly, truly would not be able to do this work without community. And y'all, when I talk about community, I mean it. Like, I don't know you all, but you know me and I know you. You are me and I am you. So if there's something you need to lean on, something that you think I might know, anything, lean into the word community. Parce que sinon ça nous sorti. Et puis c'est ça qui continue sauver nous day after day, time after time. My mom always says, même si c'est à dernier moment, she knows everything is going to be okay. My mom always says that. So this is how I know that we will win in the long run, is with community. So let me end the way I always end all my classes, and let me get super hyped because y'all, this was really good. This was really good. So as always, I would like to offer you all honneur and respect. I hope you continue to walk with honneur and respect in all that you do. I know it can be challenging, but I also know that we accept that this is our responsibility as the great, great, great grandchildren of some amazing people. Et puis m'a dit en créole pour nous-mêmes qui parlons créole. Moi ta remè offrir nous tout honneur ak respect. Moi souhaite n'a continuer marcher avec honneur et respect dans tout ça nous fait. Nous connaissons pas un bagage qui facile. Comme ça chaque jour vient avec un bagage nouveau, mais en même temps nous connaissons nous accepter ces responsabilités nous comme petite. Yon moun qui te fait un gros coquin chaîne bagage en 1804. So y'all, don't let nobody tell you nothing different. It's already in you. It's already present. All you have to do is connect and revisit and unravel. And that's it. Merci, Wilnise. En pile honneur, en pile l'amour.
Pile l'amour, Wynnie. I want to again say chapeau bas. Travail là, chapeau bas. Pour connaissance, chapeau bas pour l'amour. Parce que ça me fouette, I don't have pas de mots pour dire encore. Parce que ça c'est travail là tellement gros, but yo connaît qui moun yo ka mette sous what is it, the what do you call the podium, right? Yo connaît qui est podium là. Pas de l'autre monde qui ka fait ça. So chapeau bas encore, merci en pile pour tout le monde qui là. Merci pour les ancêtres yo qui a marché avec nous, c'est eux même. C'est parce que c'est pas eux même nous pas tape là. So merci encore. Pile respect.
Yes, merci en pile tout le monde. Au revoir.